Hello everybody, it's me, John Yakuza Kiwami Jr., captain of the Yap family. And today I'd like to talk to you about this big buff bully over here named Ryuji Goda and my personal interpretation of his character. So, what I'd like to talk about is Ryuji Goda's inconsistent honor. I've seen people bring it up a few times, and I've seen some confusion on it as well, and if you give me a minute, I'd like to explain to you why his honor can sometimes seem like it's inconsistent, and why it's not a writing flaw from the developers, but instead an actual character flaw to the character Ryuji Goda. Now, in Yakuza, and to my opinion, I think they characterize a lot of the characters very quickly and efficiently in their intros, so I'm going to talk about Ryuji's intro for a little bit, to show you the parts of the character the writers wanted you to see and notice first, right? So, the first thing we see of Ryuji is him drinking in a cabaret club with some babes and his underlings. When his underlings start to antagonize the waitstaff, yelling that no other joint in Kansai would leave their table this empty, and Ryuji screams, "Watch your mouth," and the underlings sit back down. Now, Ryuji doesn't look at the camera and say why he was upset by that, but more than likely it's because they say no other joint in Kansai, and Ryuji hates it when his strength and reach is limited to Kansai, as will be shown later. So, Ryuji's underlings sit back down, and the blonde one, who is named Yamada, refers to Ryuji as the Dragon of Kansai. Now, if you're a Yakuza trivia buff, you know he hates that nickname. So afterwards, there's an immediate change in the atmosphere. It's obvious that Ryuji is angry, and so are his underlings, and they keep urging Yamada to say what he said was wrong, to figure out what he said, and apologize. And by Yamada not understanding that he hates being called the Dragon of Kansai, he's directly disrespecting Ryuji, and Ryuji proves this by asking him, "How long have you ran with me now?" To which Yamada replies with 2 years. After 2 years, he should have known better. That's what Ryuji's conveying to him before he gives him the bottle bonk of his life. So in Ryuji's intro, they're establishing two very important things about his character. One is that he is a very renowned Yakuza from a place called Kansai, and two, he's very vulnerable and sensitive to when people call him the Dragon of Kansai. And these are two very important things to establish because this is pretty much what drives him as a character, and you'll find out more about this later. But when it comes to the intro of this character a lot of people refer to as honorable, you might be a little bit confused considering his clear lack of honor he's displaying so far, and it only gets worse from here. So when Kiryu gets up and says that he called him the Dragon of Kansai, Ryuji's underlings all surround Kiryu, and one sneaks up behind Kiryu with a bottle. Ryuji doesn't go, "Stop, underlings, we must fight him fair." He just sits there and keeps chilling because he couldn't care less. That's because Ryuji isn't necessarily focused on honor, but instead he's focused on power. Now, after Kiryu totally does not kill this guy, I mean, that's not a fatal looking fall. Landing on your spine from that height hasn't killed anyone ever. Kiryu beats the hell out of all the other underlings, and Ryuji is much more polite and respectful to him. That's because Kiryu just proved his strength, which then earned Ryuji's respect. In turn, as a character foil to Ryuji, Kiryu does not respect him at all. Kiryu treats Ryuji pretty crappy here because while Ryuji respects strength and drew respect to Kiryu from that, Kiryu respects resolve and virtue, and Ryuji has displayed none of that so far. Especially in the virtue category, he seemed like kind of a scumbag. So Kiryu is very, very rude, displaying what each character here values in a person. Now the next time when Kiryu and Ryuji fight, Ryuji brings even more goons with him. And the reason why he does this is to test Kiryu's strength thoroughly. Before Ryuji's going to fight someone, he wants to know that they're strong. Because he says it himself, "I prefer a challenge, it's more fun than taking out chumps." Now that's why Ryuji doesn't seem like he's being very honorable sometimes, is because he isn't. He's not trying to be. His honor only shines through with someone he respects, and after Kiryu beats up 1,000,000 people and brings the Goda down to a knee, then Ryuji respects him enough to fight him fairly. And it's a grand minority. Not many people voice this, but I've seen some people saying that it's a writing flaw with Ryuji's character, that he does not fight Kazuki and Yuya himself, but instead has thugs rock Yuya hit on that thing till Kiryu shows up to fight him. And if you just remember a little bit ago, he was testing their strength. If Yuya beat the hell out of all these goons, you best believe Ryuji probably would have been happy to fight him, because if he didn't, it would have discredited his strength. But because they lost to the goons, it proved to Ryuji they weren't cut from a cloth that was worth his time, and he didn't want to, because they aren't genetic freaks. This is also seen with Daigo, who he wasn't willing to fight in a fair fight at first because he viewed Daigo as too weak. Till Daigo buttered his biscuits in one of the most cathartic punches of the franchise. Now afterwards, Ryuji was more than willing to give Daigo a fair fight, because Daigo knocked him down on his fanny, and if he didn't, he'd look like a big wussy. Now this leads me to my next topic about Ryuji's inconsistent honor, and it's his scheming. Now, you could make the same argument that if he doesn't view you as someone powerful, he doesn't mind scheming against you, but I don't think that holds water, because Ryuji does say that someone who schemes will never make it to the top. That's pretty strong wording. Yet Ryuji himself schemed against Daigo to get him put into the joint for half of 10 years. He teamed up with Jingu, and if you haven't played the first game, I'll tell you, that guy likes a schemer too. He teamed up with the Jingweon. He blew up a part of the Millennium Tower in order to incite gang warfare. This guy's scheming his ass off. Now, he does say to Sengoku, "I'm the same as you, just doing whatever it takes." As well as at the end of the game, he says, "I even teamed up with those Jingweon fucks." I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name of that mafia, by the way. All of the names in this game are hard for me to say, so I digress. So from that, maybe you could draw reasonably that he hated all of the schemes he had to do, not just teaming up with the Jingweon, but also teaming up with Jingu, and even putting Daigo in jail. To further the point, later, Kiryu compares Ryuji to an old friend of his. Unless you think that old friend was Pocket Circuit Fighter, it was probably Nishikiyama. Now why I say that is they're both very similar characters, and Kiryu just does not have enough friends for this to be hard to figure out. Now, I could talk at length about the similarities between Ryuji and Nishiki, but instead I'm going to say that I do think it is fair to draw from the fact that Kiryu compares Ryuji to Nishiki, and the other dialogue that I showed earlier that it's more than likely Ryuji betraying his core values, which is why he is scheming. It seems as though Ryuji, much like Nishiki, is in a downward spiral, and he's forsaking almost everything about himself in order to get validation of his power. Now, why is Ryuji so unbelievably horny for power? Well, it's his childhood. Now, the audience has never directly shown Ryuji's childhood, but from context in the dialogue we can draw a lot. 1. His adoptive father Jin Goda ruined his life. He was very neglectful to Ryuji, to the extent to where Ryuji would say he grew up completely alone, implying that Jin might not have even been around for a lot of his life. 2. Because his adoptive father was the chairman of a big spooky Yakuza organization, obviously, no one wanted to be around Ryuji because they're terrified of him. It probably didn't help also that he was the size of a full-grown adult when he was 12. But Ryuji was alone his whole life, and outside of the, I think, 6 years he had with his mother, he was completely loveless. He had no friends, no family, no validation, no acceptance. And all he ever got to see was his adoptive father Jin Goda's unbelievable strength, which led Ryuji to admiring strength very heavily because it was all he was taught. So he looked up to his father and respected him in kind of a ghoulish way, wanting to do things he couldn't because he wanted to get validation and acceptance from everyone around him through the only thing he understood, his power. And that's why he hates it when people call into question his power, like calling him the Dragon of Kanzai, which limits his strength because he should just be the dragon because he's so strong. It's that insecurity because all of his self-worth is directly linked to how strong he views himself as. Which is why he also hates it when people accuse him of being a byproduct of nepotism. It makes him very angry. Spoilers, but when Sengoku accuses him of it, he immediately kills him. And yeah, Ryuji was going to kill him no matter what because he was waiting to murder Sengoku for kidnapping a child. And I will say also, that's not very honorable to wait in the dark with a sword to murder a man, but it is very virtuous. So, he has good morals. I wouldn't call that like the most honorable way to kill a guy, but it is something I applaud him for. And as long as I'm yapping off topic, it is crazy how far Ryuji kicked Sengoku before he started to fall, isn't it? That's like 10 feet. It's like he was hit by a car. Sengoku should have turned to dust like when Spider-Man turned into fucking Peter Particle in the Avengers movie. So in short, Ryuji's a virtuous and honorable man who has forsaken his core values to accomplish his dreams. His dreams being to surpass his father, Jin Goda, and to become the only dragon. This is because he's very desperate for a validation of his existence, to give his life meaning outside of all the suffering he's been put through. So, if you were one of the types of people who did think that that was writing flaws with Ryuji's character, I hope I convinced you otherwise, and I hope you can see him the way I do now, where that isn't really a writing flaw, but an actual character flaw in Ryuji. He's a flawed person. He still is a piece of shit when you get down to the bottom of it. He's not a good or bad guy. He's complex and very rich in his motivations. And honor is a huge part of his character. I know I underplayed how honorable he is this whole video, but it is a big part of his character, but that honor is derived from his perceived respect of the person he's fighting. And that is why his honor is very inconsistent. Now, I know defending Ryuji Goda is kind of goofy. It's like that Reddit post where the guy's like, hot take, I actually think Ryuji's kind of a good character. Like, I know, no one really critiques him too often. It's just that I've seen confusion on his honor in a few comment sections and a few posts, and I just wanted to elaborate in case anyone was having trouble rectifying why he would do some things that seem dishonorable while still having a pretty decent code of ethics in how he behaves. And that's it. Well, I think I met my yapping quota for today. It was about 8 minutes of good yap quality. A lot of misspeaking, a lot of stuttering, a lot of repeating myself. Very good yapping. And so I hope you enjoyed. And if not, I'm sorry. And I still hope you have a good day. See ya.